inductee of the night. We're going to recognize tonight late William Bill Stotler. Bill Stotler is being inducted tonight for his distinguished service to the district. At this time, I'd like to introduce one of Mr. Stotler's former players, Mr. Robin Juicy.
Good evening. I'm not going to use notes because I don't need notes. I don't do notes. I'm a heart guy. I speak from the heart. It's, as a Blackcat, it is so good to see this sort of thing, this sort of gathering, this sort of recognition. And for those of you who are teachers and administrators, this really should drive home why you do what you do. And from the bottom of our hearts, we are so appreciative. I know I am. And so that brings me to Coach Bill. Bill Stotler was a child of World War II, and I think that's important, as most of that generation was. And it was important because there was a certain way to do things. There was right, there was wrong, there was no gray area. Things were black and white, and you either did it one way or you didn't do it at all, and it was the very best you could for as long as you could, at however much time that took, and whatever it demanded of you, that's what you would do. My first recollection of Coach Stotler is I am a 6th grader at Windsor basketball camp. Coach Dave Pierce is the head coach at Windsor then. And I am in the free throw competition against Kurt Bauer. And I'm a 6th grader, and I'm shooting two-handed set shots from the free throw line to score a free throw. So we shoot 10, I hit 8, Kurt hit 7, and I win the free throw contest. And Bill is there, and it's all I can do to get the ball up to the goal, but I'm hitting free throws. Bill's there, and he turns to Dave, and he goes, "Who is that little gym rat?" And Pierce goes to Coach, he goes, "Well, that's one of yours." And I heard him, and I turned around, and I said, "And I'll see you in about 4 years." And that started my relationship with Coach Stotler. And so let's fast forward to my sophomore year. Every year, part of what happened to you as a varsity player was, if you paid your dues and you played well enough, as a sophomore, you got called up to the varsity with Coach Stotler. And being a sophomore and getting called up to the varsity was a big deal, because that meant you got a red jacket. And a red jacket was the biggest deal, because we wore those red jackets on game day, and we were the cocks of the walk. I mean, that's just the way it was. But that was just one element in the way Bill did things. He understood, look good, play good, Indiana Hoosier warm-ups, all of those things. So for some reason, I'm not thinking very clearly, which seems to be part of the way I've lived my life. And after the tournaments are over, and I think the last game we had played was at Northwest, maybe. Stott's outside talking to the press. The seniors are all in the locker room. I'm a sophomore, and I don't know what comes over me, but Coach always had a pipe, and he had a fedora. Always wore a hat and pipe. He was a bohemian guy. I mean, you know, really, that's what Stott was. I'm in my uniform. I walk over, I grab Stott's pipe, I put on Stott's hat, and I start talking to the ball club. "Guys, I want to thank you for the great season this year. For you seniors, we know this is the end, but we won't ever forget you." And about that time, Stott walks in the locker room. Well, I don't see him because he's behind me. And suddenly everybody just starts laughing, and I turn around, and there he is, and he goes, "You want to go on, Rob?" I said, "No, Coach, these are yours." But Coach told that story all the time. That was one of his favorite stories. And part of the reason that and you know, if I'd have been thinking, I would have waited until I was a senior to do that. Because that set up 2 more years of abuse for me. So that spring, I'd been playing a lot of sports. And Stott walks up to me in the gym. I'm in the gym, and you know, no air conditioning in Robinson Gym. It's hot, and I'm pounding the ball, shooting baskets by myself. And Coach walks up to me and he says, "Rob, what do you want to do with your life?" What do I want to do with my life? I'm 15 years old. I don't have any idea what I want to do with my life. He said, if you'll give me the next 2 years, I'll change the path of your life. You backed out on doing this tonight because you said you'd cry. I see now. I captained Bill's last team, which was 79. And I always say I took credit for running him out of the coaching business. We weren't very good, but we were in a conference that was great. And Tuesday nights and Friday nights in Jefferson County, you were in a gym somewhere, whether it was Festus or Herky or Hillsborough, Crystal City. The walls vibrated, the gyms were full. Sweet Georgia Brown's playing. We got up those stairs onto that court in those Indiana Hoosiers. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Doug? It's a feeling you don't ever forget. So, I was an extremely smart kid with a very short attention span. If I loved my teachers, I performed. If I loved my coaches, I did my very best. Advanced English, A's. Biology, D's and F's, because I'm thinking to myself, how many sharks am I going to dissect in my life? My senior year, I got kicked out of chorus. Now, I'm a singer and a performer, and I get kicked out of chorus. And the reason I got kicked out of chorus was because I didn't want to sing some opera that Mr. Phillips wanted to sing. So I became disruptive. I know this was a shot. So I became disruptive and got kicked out of chorus. And the Einstein that I am didn't realize that I needed a fine arts credit to graduate. So what does Bill do? Bill goes to Mr. Horton and Mr. Chandler, who I had an extremely close personal relationship with. And he says, look, 6th hour, I'll have Robin come down to the coach's office and write book reports to get him his fine arts credit so that he can graduate. And so 6th hour, one day I'm writing a book report, and the next day I'm in the gym shooting baskets. And that was the way it went my senior year. And I'm going to tell you that Bill knew, and this is really why he made a difference in my life. Bill knew that I did not know my biological dad. And I've never talked about that publicly. My stepfather, he and his brother were both alcoholics. And he did the best he could. And as he got older, we got better. But Stott stepped in and filled a space in my life that changed the trajectory of my life. And Joe, just like, every business I ran, every company I bought, everything that I've ever done, I did it with Coach right here beside me. He drove me harder than anybody ever has. He demanded of me things that I didn't even know that I could do. He provided a confidence in me that a 15, 16-year-old kid didn't have. And I'm just so grateful to know that Coach Stotler is my coach. He will always be my coach. Herky will always be my school. I don't care where I go, what I do. and I've got to do some pretty neat things in this life. I still have my Indiana Hoosiers warm-ups. And every show I do, they're on the stage with me. The last album I cut, the name of it was Herky. And I am so grateful that Bill Stotler is finally going into the Hall of Fame. It's so well deserved, it's richly deserved. And for those of you who did not know him and only know of who he was a man who lived out publicly his greatest failure and rose from the ashes like a phoenix. Again, to be an administrator, to be a principal, to lead. And he led by letting go. He led by putting something down that was killing him. And Barbara, I am so grateful for you being here tonight. This honor goes to you as much as it does to Bill. Because for you to have done what you have done all of these years, to raise these marvelous kids, it says as much about you. It says so much about the two of you together and what two people can accomplish. I'd like to introduce my former teammate, Bill's oldest son, Doug, who is also the head basketball coach at Lewis and Clark. And I will say, too, that Doug is one of the best people that I know. I've always appreciated his friendship. He is his dad made over. He looks like him, talks like him, walks like him, acts like him. And you know, basketball has always been a part of my life. It's been a part of my life, a part of my kids' life. My youngest daughter teaches and is a head basketball coach. My oldest daughter was a basketball coach, and now she leads a company herself. And Cece, on behalf of a girl dad, you're awesome. You know, it's a different world today, and guys, you need to stand down. Ladies and gentlemen, Doug Stotler.
Okay, just to clarify it, I was in the locker room when Rob went through this theatrical performance. He was a sophomore, I was a freshman. Gary was a senior, and it was at Northwest. There was a terrific player on Northwest team named Tim Gray, so it was a big ball game, and we won. When Rob picked up the pipe, see, I knew what was going to go through my dad's head, and I was just laughing about how this was going to end. But the comment that I remember coming from Dad was, "Juicy, if you put your lips on my pipe, you're dead." Mr. Goman, thanks for a great evening. I've done a few of these myself, and I know how important your support staff is. You know, these are tremendous. These have tremendous impact for a lot of people, not just the people receiving awards, but you know, the people that support this entire institution. You know, I look through the program and you know, CC and Mr. Shear, and then I see Bill Stotler. And part of me is sad that I'm here, but the other part of me is that I feel tremendous honor that I get to accept this award on behalf of our family over here. My wife, Kathy, my daughter Rachel, my brother Darren, his son, sister Di, and her two kids, and mom. And, you know, Rob, you said it. You know, Dad has always, I guess, been the stronger personality, but Mom's the strongest person in our family. No question about it. thanks to that 11-member Hall of Fame committee, I guess, it takes 11 people to put somebody on a plaque and put them up there for eternity. Again, our family is extremely honored that you've inducted my dad. Mom's honored that you've inducted her husband. Grandchildren are extremely honored that he's now honored in this Hall of Fame, and we want to tell him, Dad, even your great-grandson that you didn't know, he's honored. Our coach, our teacher, colleague, and friend, my God, we miss him. We all have these little triggers in our family. Mine is 11:11 a.m. Every morning at 11:11 a.m. I have a conversation with my dad. For my sister Dana, her conversation with Dad begins when she sees a coin on the ground. Dad was constantly picking up money off the ground and putting it away. My brother Darren has a trigger, and it's tall grass and lawnmowers. Darren says he cut more grass with Dad than he cares to even remember. And then I know a trigger for Gary and Robin are also chairs. Anytime they get chairs, Dennis Beckett, chairs is a trigger. And every time you see one, sometimes you think of Dad. As I stand here, I wonder, if he were here, what would he say? He wasn't real fond of Hall of Fames. He felt like it was something that was geared towards students, not teachers, not staff. But I'm sure he would have been humbled. But I have no doubt in my mind that he would have mentioned his mentors. Chuck Smith, who was his high school basketball coach. There was a guy named Dr. Al Burr that was, I think, a principal at Von Terre High School who went on to greatness in education. He would certainly thank Mr. Gerald Gastineau and Mr. J.L. Horton, who are both in the Hall of Fame. He said they molded him, whatever that means. Dad was a pretty simple guy, but he said Gastineau and Horton molded him into being a pretty good teacher and a pretty good coach. But I think ultimately what he would say is he doesn't deserve this honor because he did his job, and he was very proud of that. My dad had a lot of titles. Mr. Stotler, Coach Stotler, Bill, William C., some called him Cecil. And one time when I met Mr. Smith, who was Dad's high school coach, Mr. Smith called him Billy. I was a little older when I met Mr. Smith, and we got in the car after that. And I said, "How you doing, Billy?" And he said, "If you ever call me that again, you're not going to make it to tomorrow." When me and my sisters Dana and Diane and Darren were younger, we always knew Dad was famous. Everywhere we went, somebody would know Dad. Somebody would. We'd go to St. Louis. We went to Chicago one time. He knew somebody. Coming back from Springfield, he knew somebody. And you go down to the Lead Belt, he knows everybody down there. But we're constantly asking him, "Who is that?" He'd tell the story. And it's amazing how that web of connection started in Von Terre and extended now to Herculaneum for his lifelong career. And now how I see all these connections with everybody in here and people that aren't, it's just absolutely incredible. Who was that, Dad? And he'd tell the story. Thank you for inducting my father. We miss him, but our family very, very much appreciates the recognition. And I'm just so grateful to hear stories like Rob's and Cece's and Mr. Shear. And very, very proud of what this institution has accomplished, and very, very proud that my father was a part of it. Thank you for the recognition. Thank you for the night, and will remember it and cherish it forever. Thank you.
I'm not a speaker, but I just want to say, when we came to Herculaneum, we were on our way to St. Louis, where we were going to make more money. But I'm so glad we stayed in Herc. It was a good place for the kids to grow up. They had good education. Bill enjoyed working here and enjoyed all the people he worked with. And of course, I did work here a little bit too, but not nearly as long as he did. But we appreciate it so much. I'm very impressed with this evening. You all did a wonderful job. And you guys are amazing. You know, your influence is out in the world. Bill's was in the world, but it was kind of this world. And so thank you so much.